Note that we do have
This conference will now be recorded.
Thank you. Appreciate everyone being here today. We have actually two individuals for public comment. And so first up is Tricia Baird. So Tricia, if you'd like to use the podium up there. We have two speakers, so we'll have 3 minutes apiece for each of the speakers. And for the record, if you could state your name.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Tricia Braid. I'm here today to speak about the minutes from the August 6, 2025 meeting and requirements of the Open Meetings Act. As someone who was present at the August meeting, I was surprised to see that the approved minutes do not accurately reflect what occurred, particularly regarding the closed session. The recording on YouTube confirms the discrepancy. Illinois law allows approved minutes to be corrected when errors are discovered, and I believe it's important for the Commission to do this at your January meeting. I believe the Commission's procedures need broad attention for adherence to the Open Meetings Act. I would encourage you to take a straightforward look at a few key items. 1, the requirements for entering and ending closed sessions, including recorded votes. 2, the consistency and timeliness of making recordings available. 3, the public comment policy violates Open Meetings Act in too many ways to cover here during this comment period, and the long absence of executive committee minutes. The last meeting was in August of 2024, and no minutes, not even draft minutes, have yet to be posted. I urge you to put the issues of correcting the August meeting minutes on the agenda for your January 2026 meeting. You should also have the public comment policy rewrite on the same agenda. Once you're aware of these deficiencies, it is incumbent upon you to address them at the earliest possible opportunity. This should be a priority. Transparency and accountability are not optional, they're essential. I'd like to hear a discussion about this topic at this meeting. I believe agenda item number 6H allows for that opportunity. These are not complicated fixes. Open meetings matter a great deal for public trust. Mandatory yearly OMA training and temporary support from legal counsel or an OMA expert could also help ensure things are on a solid footing for you moving forward. Concerns about governance naturally shape how the public views the strategic land use plan. My opposition to the strategic land use plan has as much to do with the process behind it as with the plan itself. I believe you were given a copy of my emailed comments about the plan on the previous date. On another topic, although I'm not formally requesting that the draft minutes from the 2 most recent meetings be removed from today's consent agenda, I would suggest that maybe one of the commissioners think about doing so. Until such time that your correction of the August meeting minutes is made, I believe it might be best practice for you to consider the meeting minutes approvals as a separate item so that you can invite discussion about it. And lastly, I have a question about tonight's agenda and the draft minutes from the September 24th meeting. The draft minutes show the commission voted to adopt the Go Safe Action Plan. On tonight's agenda, the strategic land use plan is mentioned for presentation and filing. And I know you can't answer me in this forum right now, but I'd like you to discuss it if you could later in the meeting to answer why is there a different approach between these two plans, just so I understand why adopt one and not the other. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Anna Ziegler. Anna. Would you state your name for the record?
Good afternoon, Anna Ziegler. I'm here on behalf of McLean County Farm Bureau. As you may know, McLean County Farm Bureau is a voluntary membership organization that represents farmers and farmland owners, and we are also actively involved with our rural communities. And I'm here to comment about this strategic land use plan. We appreciate that there were opportunities added for public engagement during that process, including some public meetings and 2 rounds of public comment, and we did submit comment in both of those periods. We have some remaining concerns that we'd like to highlight for you as commissioners. The first is engagement of stakeholders, especially our rural communities. So Bloomington, Normal, and county staff produced the initial draft of the strategic land use plan without any input from those rural communities, school districts, townships, or other stakeholders. There was opportunity after the fact, but that lends itself to them feeling left out and like they're an afterthought. So we hope in the future that items that are considered countywide plans can engage everyone early on in the process, especially our rural areas. And even with that engagement, we still feel that the plan lacks some attention to those rural areas. Even though it's called McLean County Strategic Land Use Plan, much of the content is centered around Bloomington Normal, including 100% of the areas labeled for future growth. So we feel there's probably some missed opportunities for prospective development in our smaller towns. The future land use map does appear to have a few areas that are identified for development in those rural communities. but there's no explanation of how those areas were identified or what specifically they're intended to be. Examples include a rural residential development north of Hayworth, residential development around Shirley, and a large industrial employment center southwest of Leroy near the I-74-136 exchange. Our second concern is the future land use regarding loss of farmland. The proposed future land use map depicts a potential conversion of 20,558 acres of ag land in the county to other uses, with 70% of that acreage, 14,756 acres, being converted within the 1.5 mile extraterritorial jurisdiction of Bloomington Normal. That's a significant policy shift and policy matters. You know, we know everything in the plan might not come to fruition. And we also support private property rights. So if a landowner decides to sell for development, that is their choice. But it is a large and potentially permanent loss of farmland. We also feel there's a lack of prioritization, and especially for infill development in the plan. Again, all the future growth areas are on the outer edges of Bloomington Normal. While there's mention of infill development, there's no system to identify which areas are a priority. Thank you very much.
Thank you. There's no public comment. We're moving on to the consent agenda. Given the topics that have been raised, I want the commission to know that I've been in contact with our legal representation, which is the state's attorney's office. And they have recommended that we do nothing with our minutes or make any changes at this time, because these are under a matter of administrative review by the the Illinois State's Attorney's Office at this time. So I would like to propose that perhaps we poll for consideration all of the minutes that are listed here and table those, and take all of those up after we have received the ruling from the administrative judge, and make whatever appropriate changes need to be made to make sure that we're in compliance with all of these issues. Throw that out for further discussion. Mark?
I would just be willing to make that motion.
Okay, thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion? If not, we'll go ahead and remove minutes, items 1 and 2 from the consent agenda and table those for our upcoming meetings. So the consent agenda can I get are all those in favor signify by saying aye? Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Okay, now on to the remaining items for the consent agenda, which is items 3, 4, 5, and 6. Can I get a motion to approve those?
Move to approve.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. It stands approved. We're now on to the regular items, and the first item is consideration for action, which is to receive and file the strategic land use plan and share it with the local governments of McLean County, the city of Bloomington, and the town of Normal for their appropriate use. Ray, I understand you and Anthony have a presentation.
Yeah, well, Anthony is getting ready for his brief presentation. As you've been well aware of, since we've been giving a monthly update to the commission, this project, and so you've been probably been kept informed over the past many months of work. And so we are at a stage to ask for the report to be received and filed, and really just to emphasize, even after if you do vote for receive and filing of this document, actually is going to be forwarded to our partner municipal governments, the counties, city and town, really for their further action as they deem appropriate. And really for land use plan is it's a plan, it's a guide, it's a reference, and the Regional Planning Commission don't review act on zoning cases or rezoning or special use permit process. Those are under the purview of the individual municipal government. So the plan, if indeed we get received and filed by you all, got moved on to the our municipal partners, they will be the ones who exercise their own authority on zoning cases, special use permits, rezoning, and then they will use a plan, whatever as deemed appropriate. Just want to make sure that we all understand what's the use, the practical. But we were helping our partners in working together to create this document through different process, which Anthony is going to go a little bit, not in too much detail, but just to review and recap what has happened to bring us to this point.
Good afternoon, everyone. And like Ray said, we've all been pretty aware of the planning process for this project. And so I'm just going to kind of give an overview of where we started, where we're at, and the completed draft that we have now. So first and foremost, I'm excited to announce that we have completed the McLean County Strategic Land Use Plan. The final draft document is now available on our website, along with the updated outreach report and the maps. Over the last year, MCRPC staff and our partners at the City of Bloomington, Town of Normal, and McLean County government have been working hard on developing a strategic land use plan for unincorporated McLean County and the Bloomington Normal urban area. This project began back in the fall of 2024 during the very early stages of planning for the McLean County Comprehensive Plan update. It was determined then that an updated land use map was needed to address development pressures being seen in Bloomington Normal area, resulting in the decision to pivot to the development of a strategic land use plan. The first half of this year was dedicated to gathering data, creating an existing land use map, and developing the first draft of the strategic land use plan. After the completion of that first draft, the second half of the year was focused on public outreach and gathering feedback to help shape the final version of this plan that we have today. Over a 5-month period, MCRPC staff contacted over 2,000 individuals, held 7 in-person public outreach events, and collected over 100 individual comments to assist in the 2 revisions that were made, and now we're on the 3rd with the final draft here. As of now, the most recent and final version of this plan is available online on our website, and the changes to this final draft include a more detailed visualization of potential land use changes, countywide, and also city and town 1.5 mile jurisdiction. And it also includes a final version of the YWCA outreach report that outlines in a lot of detail the outreach efforts that we did to shape this plan, as well as a few minor corrections and updates. At this stage, MCRPC staff has completed the development of the plan and now requests that the commission receive and file the completed document. This will allow local governments to access the plan for their appropriate use in the future. Thank you, and if you have any questions, I will try to answer them.
Questions for Anthony?
What kind of a timeline do we expect for the city and town and county to take us through this?
Not too sure at this point. Again, at this point, we have completed the actual legwork of the plan, and it would be up to them to determine their review and approval process. So whenever they are ready, I'm sure you'll hear about it, and they have to have a public hearing and all that. So,
if I may add to, which is true. We don't know the timetable, but since we've been working with the staff, so they've been communicating with their own administration and the board people and the council. So I think they are aware of it, and then they're the ones who deal with all those rezoning applications and special use permit applications. So I would hope that they would take this and as most recent up-to-date documents regarding future land use, and so they would take it up as soon as possible because they're the ones who have to make those decisions on those petitions.
But they're anticipating it in their typical response, and the typical handling in the past has been their review process and their hearings and everything like that. So there's plenty of time yet for others to provide input.
Yes, yeah. I think like at least as far as the city and the town, I think there will be public hearings that have to be held, and they might have to go through their own planning commission and then before city council, before even adopt it, if they so choose.
And this plan is really kind of the first stage for the county's comprehensive plan. So it will be reviewed consistently as they move through that comprehensive planning process over the next year, in addition.
Yeah, all comprehensive plans have a land use element, and so that's definitely something we'll revisit when we get to that point.
Other questions, Bart?
Yes, thank you. So to the action of receiving and filing the report, does that actually mean we send it to each of those three entities and then they decide to adopt it one way or the other? Is there an actual outline process that goes along with that? I guess
It's whatever their specific policy is in terms of how they handle it.
Gotcha.
We don't determine that at all.
Okay.
And they're the ones that will actually be making the final determination as to how land will be allocated and used,
Right.
and whether or not things will be adapted for expansion or left alone.
And then to Jim's comment then, so they're anticipating this. I mean, basically they requested that the regional planning commission do that. Is that something that officially gets done, a request to do that? Or was that just something that it kind of came out of meetings leading up to the comprehensive plan and said, wow, we don't have this, we probably need to do it? Or I guess, how does that work?
Yeah, and CRPC has it's called an RSA, Regional Service Agreement, and one of those things is on the laundry list of what we do for city, town, and county is the assistance of comprehensive plan development. And so in this case, land use sections of comp plans are pretty common, and so that was part of that discussion.
So when we started, I guess we related to the timetable, I guess that's what the question was. And we started off on the regional comprehensive plan process as we were going to do it anyway. But during the discussion, the initial discussion, after hearing both, from the county, city, and staff, knowing there's a lot of applications, rezoning, development proposals, as you all have read in the news and whatnot, and you can review the agendas for the respective council and board meetings. So they feel there's need for that strategic land use plan to be done, because typically the regional comprehensive plan are more broad, more with multiple elements included. Those type of documents would take more time, like 1.5 to 2 years is not uncommon. You check with other communities, other counties, in the country. So because of the demand pressure, so we kind of take a kind of sidetrack road on the land use element, but still working, looking at infrastructure, looking at existing land uses, working with staff who deal on a day-to-day basis on those type of issues, and then with the public engagement. So that's why we come to a point where the strategic land use plan is completed. Not to say things can change. All the land uses, despite the plan, how good, how we trying to project, things might not happen, right? If you recall 2008, 2009, things all, the world economy stopped. And despite in those days, there were projections for more population, more job growth, didn't happen, didn't really start coming back until a few years later. So we can plan, do the best we can, of course, with our partners, but leave it up to those jurisdictions. So the timetable, I was going to cover it later on the update. So once this is, say, if we simplify, it's just really as simple, sounds like as simple as just receive and file this document. We'll, tomorrow or by the end of this week, we'll send it out to the county, city, and town and say, here, commission has taken the action for receive and file, for your consideration, whatever appropriate use in an email with a document. And so that's what we intend to do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
One follow-up, if I may, Mr. Chairman. This is more of a statement than a question. Regardless of whether I agree or disagree with what's in the plan, that doesn't really matter because it's a plan. That's the whole point. The the way this kind of came about caused a lot of consternation in especially the rural community. And I guess so much confusion involved that it almost looked like there was something nefarious going on. And that's been, accusations have been made, things have been talked about. I guess as we move forward, because we're talking about doing this, every 10, 15 years. I don't know if there's an ideal time frame. You've talked about that in some of your presentations, that maybe we waited a little long. But it makes me wonder if there's a better, more set way to do this, where the county and the town and the city publicly make it clear that this is something they want the Regional Planning Commission to do. Because quite frankly, when there started to be controversy over this, I had elected officials of one of those entities contact me that had no idea what was going on with this and didn't understand why we were doing this. And, so he was very upset, frustrated with me as a commissioner. That doesn't bode well for the way that lays out. So, not to mention the fact that once it kind of came out, I think there was a lot of people that felt left out. Whether it becomes a procedural document or a guideline, or how we do this in the future, I think there's a whole lot of problems that have been kind of covered or we've run over, the speed bumps we've hit with this, or a lot of things we could have avoided with a little more proactive communication. I think some of that maybe is on our part, but I think a lot of that may be on the part of the folks that we're actually doing this on behalf of. And I don't know how we relay that message or how we help fine tune that process, but it seems to me that my guess is that a lot of us won't be at the table here in 15 years when we do this again. So how do we make sure that that doesn't happen again? Because certainly we want the community to live in a plan and to have, guidelines and ideas of what smart growth is and what makes the most sense for the community. At the same time, got to make sure that community is involved in the process and understands why it's happening, and how they can contribute to that when they do it. So I'm actually probably going to vote no on this, solely for the simple fact that I think we got to do a better job of how we handle that. The report seems to be very well done. I don't love everything that's in it, but I'm not sure any person does love everything that's in it. Everybody's got their own background or their own agenda that they're pushing, and that may or may not be encompassed in this program. But I think we got to find a better way to do it the next time we do this, and I think that's kind of incumbent on us to learn from the mistakes we made now, because the people that will be here in 10 or 15 years aren't going to know those mistakes or really remember necessarily.
Yeah, I would say that there's a lot of blame to go around in terms of why this happened and how it evolved and such. I also think it's a byproduct of just the environment we're in right
Sure.
now, where people are highly charged about making sure that government is doing what it needs to be doing and not overstepping its bounds.
Right.
So definitely agree with that. And I think Ray and I need to share with the various parties the fact that we need to do a little better job of, each entity needs to do a better job of informing its elected what our role is and why we're doing what we're doing, because as Anthony mentioned, this is part of our regional agreement with each of those institutions. So it's incumbent upon them to do a better job of making sure that their electeds understand what the process is.
I couldn't agree more with that. And we witnessed that. I was at one of the stakeholder meetings, the one at Farm Bureau, and our staff stood up and took it head on and dealt with the issue. Didn't feel like that was necessarily the case with the rest of the crew. I mean, they kind of let us sit there and I say us because I'm on the commission right now, so I'm saying that from my perspective as a commissioner. I kind of felt like they let Ray and Anthony kind of hang out there and have to deal with it, and they could have done a better job of taking ownership. If this is something they asked us to do, the least they could have done was participate and be a little more upfront with why and what we were doing.
Other comments?
Thank you.
Can you address how in a plan like this, the infill process is addressed, and how is there a way that we could have that be a more significant part of the plan? Certainly, I think, an overarching concern is that, you know, we live in the nation's largest producer of corn and soybeans in agricultural rich ground. And once that ground is converted, it can't be converted back. So we lose a very vital natural resource and a big source of our economy in the area. So how can we do more to address infill in this type of document? Maybe not in the way it traditionally has been, but maybe we can explore some new ways to address that because of the unique nature of our county.
Yeah, infill development or land preservation or redevelopment, it's in the current comprehensive plans of the city and the town. When those plans were adopted back in 2015, 2017. And so that's been the consistent policy, actually, when you look at cases they have entertained in the past few years. That's reiterate, when they make recommendations, when there are developments in the more the inner area of those municipalities for infill. So I don't think they have given up on that. In fact, that was some of the questions. They were part of the conversations when we had the public meetings through this strategic land use process, and even their staff said, it's still in place. They still emphasize it. So definitely those two areas, as far as we are concerned, even our own staff, we advocate that, definitely. I think there's some pages in the document that we got beef a little bit, since they're not that obvious, since they're already included in those cities and the towns comprehensive plan. So they still exercising that as a priority. And that's why when they make recommendations to those proposals within the urban area, so to speak, a lot of times, they encourage that. And so definitely that's not an issue to the extent that if this should be emphasized more and more. I think there's some wording in the document, and Anthony can address that for me.
Yeah, if I can interject, the infill development question was a question we got very early on. And in this case, the intent of this plan is to provide updated spatial information for all of these entities, not to replace their existing comprehensive plans. So in those comprehensive plans for the city and the town, they have clear sections on what they intend to do when it comes to infill development. And so that's why it's not as emphasized in this plan, because they already have policy for that. And so one thing that we did to try to instill a little bit more of that infill in this plan was in the second revision on the existing land use map. There are a handful of parcels that are classified as undeveloped within the city and town limits. And so those in existing are undeveloped, and in the future, they have a land use associated to them. And so those are intended to be those infill development ready parcels. And then we included a little snapshot there that the city and the town have extensive electronic online tools that you can use to view parcels that are ready for a new house or ready for a new business. And so that's why it's not as involved in this plan, is because they already have those policies in place.
So we're relying on them that they're doing that work.
So they have the jurisdiction within their municipalities.
I guess I would. So, our job as the commission is to look at the needs of the entire county, right? And to the extent that we trust government and trust, our partners, that we're at the mercy of the city and the town to follow through on that, versus I think we could advocate for all of the county to show that we're hearing them by putting more than just the infill comment is a very nice and well done section, but I think almost to put a whole section about, here are some innovative infill practices that we've seen in other counties across the nation, and here are some areas that we've identified that are, perfect for some redevelopment. And that, we propose, instead of turning, this parcel over here to new commercial use, that we, look at these infill strategies first. And I think that would make something like this, when you look at just the percent of land that's converted, I think it makes our rural partners feel like, we're considering their needs, because they drive through our communities too and see undeveloped or unused land, and that's got to be really frustrating.
Or vacant buildings.
Yeah, or vacant buildings, that are considered
Repurposed.
used in this.
Other questions or comments from the commissioners? If not, I'd entertain a motion to receive the report and forward it to our municipal partners.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Okay, all those in favor of receiving and forwarding it to our municipal partners, please raise your hand. So we. All those opposed? Okay, let the record reflect that we did have one no vote. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 positive votes.
So we'll, as said, we'll email our partners and let them know the results of your vote just now, and then we'll leave them to take whatever appropriate action. And on the campaign, then we'll go back where we started is on the rest of the regional comprehensive plan process. We took note of the involvement, and we were not to really be defensive. We do intend to involve, as we originally did for the regional campaign process, because it involved those municipalities, rural communities, and incorporated areas, and that will be more larger scale, and definitely we'll definitely involve our rural partners. And for the strategic land use plan, just we don't have jurisdiction within even those 20 rural municipalities. I mean, they have their own zoning authority. We don't have a say, and so they control their own destiny. We don't. So yeah, we just provide technical assistance as much as we could.
Yeah, absolutely. But I just think, if you put it in writing, it's one step further towards towards a recommendation, and then they're gonna, oh wow, they took the effort to put it in writing that we should do this. So you kind of makes it seem just a little more weight.
Ray, I'd like to, on behalf of the commission, thank you, Anthony, and the whole commission staff for your work on the project. I know it was a difficult project, and it's a lot different than the last time I remember us doing a comprehensive plan for the county. I hope that a lot of the things that were discussed here get incorporated. Especially the infill, because it's much, much cheaper to do development when you've got infrastructure all there and ready to go than trying to do what we've been doing for the past 40 years, which is essentially spread out and keep turning farmland into subdivisions per se. It's not really effective use for our land here in McLean County, especially given the quality of the land that we've got here.
I mean, could you do a separate infill study? Just
We actually we how should I say this? After the regional comprehensive plan, right? Because usually it tend to address a little bit more outside the Bloomington normal area, and so infill by definition is really the vacant property, the dilapidated properties, the vacant properties within the urban area that got to be developed and repurposed, right? And that's what, at least from our perspective, is what we meant by infill. And we have seen a lot, and personally, I've worked on a lot of the infill redevelopment plans. And for the regional comprehensive plans, that will be more for the area outside the urban area. But when we work on that, we also work with them because we don't want to plan for a donut hole either. After that is done, we will move on to see, because in 2015, 2017, when we, after we worked on those plans actually for the city and the town. They asked us for help and said, we did that. Before my time, although they got awards for McLean Planning Association State Award. And so we will be working with them, and those infill policy examples that could be incorporated into their own individual comprehensive plans. And we, to the extent that we can do it for both those two municipalities, and then with some kind of examples. There's plenty of examples around, and so that's not a problem. For the regional compact, it's not to focus that much on the rural area. I mean, on the urban area. So just want to make that distinction. But when we move on after that, for the town and the city, their own comprehensive plan, if they still want us to help on that, then the infill focus on more pages, chapter on that, that will be natural.
I think the infill seems to be really driven by the economic development groups, both the city has, the town has, and of course the Economic Development Council. And I think we've heard comments from both Normal and Bloomington about the importance of new energy for infill. So at least from what I hear and see, I think I'm pretty convinced that infill is very high on their list.
Yeah, you're right, Jim.
So I think it's going to come from those city councils.
Yeah, I think both municipalities are looking toward infill in the long run. And also, I know talking to developers that it makes a great deal more sense because the cities aren't providing the infrastructure that they once used to do. And the way the building equation has been configured now, it's really difficult for a builder to come in and put in that infrastructure that they used to be able to do pretty cheaply. It's costing them a lot more. So I think we'll see a lot more. And we're actually seeing some of it right now. If you take a look at the Barrickman project up in North Normal, that's filling in some spots. And I know the city's working on the State Farm building to convert that to residential. Also working on the Commerce Bank building. And they've tried a few times where the Coachman property was. So I think it's going to happen.
Yeah,
It's
I just
got
like to put it in writing.
Yep.
And
No.
and I think that would really go a long way
Mhm.
in saying that this really, I get that it's the individual municipalities that have to do that, but I think this still is a comprehensive plan for the entire county. And that it's a piece of the puzzle. And I think putting it in writing in this document makes it more official.
Anything else on this topic before we move on? Okay. Under items for information or discussion, the presentation, our McLean County Mayor's Association speaker is under the weather, and so he's asked to reschedule. So Mayor Johansson from Lexington will not be with us today. Ray, we're up next with the housing coordinator position update.
We have received a draft grant agreement from DCO, the state agency. So we are ready to sign and then send out today, but after this meeting, and then wait for DCO to fully execute the agreement. And once we get that, we should have the official, grant agreement or document and ready. And then we'll start the process of the hiring process for the housing coordinator. So stay tuned, but we are, at least get to this point is good. Actual, written document agreement on Monday.
Regional housing update, Luke.
Good afternoon, everyone. So for the December updates, under local updates, the November 2020 2025 housing staff meeting was rescheduled to December 15, and so now staff will be hosting the joint housing staff and ASH committee meeting on Monday, December 15. We've also posted the RHI 2024-2025 annual report on our website. And so highlights from the annual report include the 2 white papers that we published, namely the Bloomington Normal Rental Rate Analysis 2022 to 2024, and the Income Qualified Housing 2024 Area Median Income. Other highlights from the annual report include the Housing Dashboard updates and the 2025-2029 Consolidated Plan Process. Moving on, we've also submitted the CDBG second quarter report to the city. We're currently working on the Bloomington's Program Year 2026 CDBG Partner Program application. So this is basically the same process that we do every year, and funding will be used to continue chairing the RHI meetings, publication of the white papers, and the maintenance of the housing dashboard. Moving on to other updates, we attended the Unhoused Task Force meeting last week. And so during this meeting, Salvation Army said that the emergency shelters are nearly full due to the cold weather. And second, the point in time, or the pit count, will happen on January 29th. So just a brief overview, the pit count is 100 count of sheltered and unsheltered people experiencing homelessness on a single night. And third, Liam Wheeler, coordinator of the Central Illinois Continuum of Care, which you may recall from the February Commission meeting, announced that HUD published last month the Notice of Funding Opportunity for next year. And so this NOFO puts the Central Illinois Continuum of Care at risk of losing 60% of its funding, which would affect programs such as Chestnut, Mayor's Manor, and will increase the risk of homelessness across our region. Those are the updates that I have. Do you have any questions?
Any questions?
Can you go into a little more detail what you just shared?
Oh, I don't have the details regarding the NOFO. I'm sure if I can connect you with Liam, so that's all the detail that I have.
Okay.
That I'm sure.
I mean, it's scary.
I get it. So during that Unhoused Task Force meeting, like people's spirits were down. So yeah.
You call this what's the acronym?
Notice of Funding Opportunity, NOFO.
Oh, okay. Oh, from who?
From HUD.
From HUD.
So from what I understand, if I may, it's a grant program. It's for the entire country. So I'm sure we're not the only one who's affected. In fact, a lot of the COCs in the country are affected by this. So yeah, it's kind of disappointing because it affects how the different agencies and different nonprofit organizations and they try to help people who will be affected. But that's what's been announced on the NOVO and the funding, basically grant opportunities, and so we'll definitely have some impact, not just for our area, but different parts of the country.
Any other questions for Luke? Okay. Jennifer?
Yes. Yes. I'm very pleased to report to the Commission that this report here with regard to the Human Services Transportation Plan has nothing to do with land use. With respect to the Region 6 plan itself, we are continuing to examine it for areas that need updating with respect to how both the plan and the region itself have changed over the last few months. That is an ongoing process which we expect to be completed by the end of June of this coming year. You may have heard reference to us having distributed a survey to the entire mailing list for Region 6, which is about 45 people. And it asked a number of things with respect to those who've been involved with the two committees, technical and policy, for the region. We asked people to provide us with details about their positions, such as county board membership, administrative positions, 5310 agency positions, social service agencies, and so on. We also asked for some of their community information, popular local media outlets, community gathering locations, organizations as a reference for future outreach, regarding the Region 6 HSTP program and information regarding affiliate organizations to better reflect community networks. Again, we could use for outreach. Unfortunately, we had a very low response rate with 10 responses out of that large mass. We followed up individually, we followed up with reminders. We have an upcoming meeting on December 15th, at which time we'll be handing out those questionnaires in hard copy with a request that they fill them out during that meeting. I will get this information one way or the other. If I had to go camera people's doorsteps, I'm happy to do that. But I hope we can solve it this way. We're continuing contacts with the regional committees regarding that follow-up and collecting additional materials and other resources in preparation for our items on the December 15th meeting agenda, which will go out later this week. Any questions?
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks so much.
What methods are you planning to use?
I hate to say this.
Answers the questions.
And most of my family history is German, so
I
that
know.
is an information. We tried to make it clear to everyone back in September how vital it was for us to collect this information so that we could expand our outreach, so that we could make sure that we were contacting the appropriate people and the appropriate organizations to make sure that everyone was aware of this effort. That fell on deaf ears. It's not the first time. So as I said, we're showing up on December 15th. It's gonna be a busy day, December 15th. With the same request in printed out format saying, do not leave this room until you fill this out.
Excellent.
You need to guard the door.
I'm going to.
You'll get
If I
nothing
can
for
find-
Christmas.
I know, if I only I had access to a large brown dog. I'm kind of at my wit's end here because we
Get
have
it.
pushed this process. And yeah, it's kind of clear what I make friends.
Yeah.
Because over and over again, we have said, look, we're here to help you, but it's your project. It's your communities. It's your transportation services. We can't make it happen for you. And so I'm going to make that speech again. It's going to be part of the agenda. It's going to be, I don't want to say I'm going to crack a whip. I don't have one
No.
for starters, but
Very encouraging, though, I would hope.
I'm going to be interested to see how IDOT takes this position. But again, we are empowered to do certain things under the agreement we have with IDOT. But making people understand that it's not our job to do their communities for them is right up our right.
Yeah.
So I'll let you know in January how we're. Let's assume I'm still working. Take care.
Ray, Veterans Parkway
Yeah,
order.
thank you. Still ongoing. This next meeting is next Friday on December 12th. The consultant has been completing a draft preliminary alternative design report and also a public engagement report. They had a phase 2, as you recall, I mentioned last time. So they will have the 2 reports to be completed and seeking comments from the project steering committee. At the next meeting on 12th, they will conduct some kind of workshop after the regular meeting, probably see more actively seeking input and doing survey and that kind of stuff with the project steering committee. So it's still ongoing, a lot of things going on for that, but just want to make sure that you understand this is really at a point where they have the different alternatives. Eventually, they were trying to narrow it down to the preferred alternatives. Any questions?
Ray, is this gonna be very similar to when we talk about the land use? Once they put this plan together, then the city and town will adopt the plan then, or since they're a stakeholder, I don't even know, I guess, what's the process of that?
Sure. It's a corridor plan, but we got it with a federal grant, a federal grant project. So for this particular, we will look just like the SS4A, we will seek the planning commission's adoption of the plan, and then after that, we will. They don't have to adopt it, but then we want to see, because the roadway, the 10-mile roadway, it's partially within the city, partially under the town, but then also the roadway belongs to the state, right? I mean, it's the state, and then the right of ways on both sides. And so we'll probably talk with the state, but in terms of implementing some of the ideas, it would really take cooperation with all the different entities. So whether they are top the plan or specific projects that we all work together, because there won't be money I can guarantee you, there won't be money to do all the improvements all at once, right? So there'll probably be more single specific projects incrementally and prioritize and to get those done and then apply for different funding, for some of those. So it probably won't be seeking adoption by those municipalities.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Ray, you're up next with regional comprehensive plan update.
Okay. Well, with the action you just took earlier, so we'll get back onto the regional comprehensive plan, and we have done a lot of the background existing conditions. There's some data needs to be updated, so we'll continue that process. Our goal is to have this done, and we still have to work with the county administration a little bit more. Maybe, or we're hoping maybe by the fall of 2026 to have that done. And it might take a little bit longer time. Sometimes planning process, there'll be changes, unexpected situations that you have witnessed through the strategic land use plan. And so, but we want to make sure it's done, properly. And so our goal is to have it done in the fall of 2026, but then also along with public engagement efforts and inclusion of the rural communities, and there will be project steering committees to be formed. So we'll also give you updates as we move on.
Any questions for Ray?
Can I say a couple words?
Yeah.
So, just like the strategic land use plan, I'll be trying to head the development of the comprehensive plan.
Sure.
Yes.
Right.
Learned a lot this time.
Yeah.
And that's why I kind of wanted to get up and say that we have done a lot of back end work here, but it's my opinion that I would like to start fresh at this point with the comprehensive plan. I know that we have a bunch of information that'll be helpful and it'll kind of expedite the beginning of that process, but we need to make sure we're doing the correct outreach, and we need to make sure we have a project steering committee that can review everything. And so we're hoping that some of the legwork that we've completed already will expedite that timeline. But with talking with other officials with the county and whatnot, they're not concerned about when the plan will be done. They're more concerned about having a good plan at the end. And so I want to just make sure that is emphasized, that a good plan is the end goal for this project, not necessarily hitting a distinct deadline.
Do you get a sense that they're educating their elected officials about the next step in all of this?
I think a big first step in this new project development is going to be having a conversation and making sure everybody's on the same page about what is expected.
Yeah, because I saw the land use chairperson was in the room.
Yeah, I don't think it's a surprise that we're going to start working now more heavily on the comprehensive plan, and we want to get it done as quickly as possible, but also we want to make sure, again, that we don't run into the same problems that we did with the strategic land use plan. And so we want to make sure we're checking every single box, crossing all the T's and all the I's, and making sure that we're on the right track here.
Okay. Questions for Anthony?
Just thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, the 2026 meeting schedule is included in your packet. Our next meeting is January 7th. So hopefully the weather will cooperate, and we might be able to have the mayor from Lexington at that meeting as well. Also too, in the January meeting, we're going to be electing new officers, and we're going to also have some transition. I just wanted to thank we're actually losing 3 commissioners. Jim Fruin, Ron, and John are all leaving the commission and moving on. We do have one person already designated for Jim's position, yeah, that's right. Thank you all for the work that you've done, for being part of the commission. Applaud your efforts and such, and would like to just lead in a round of applause for all of this. And then,
I hate to leave.
yeah.
Young blood coming along.
And also too, just one final thing that I was going to mention is that obviously, as I mentioned earlier, we do have a outstanding administrative review of our minutes or the Open Meetings Act. And so once we get that report back, it will come before the commission to make whatever appropriate changes that we have to do. We're also taking a look at our public policy, public comment procedure. There are things that I think we can tighten up and make it a little more efficient than what we've been doing. So with that,
Can I add?
please
I
do.
recently took it was a webinar, so it wasn't the required Open Meetings Act training, but a webinar put on by the Illinois Attorney General's office. And so, just a reminder, like it's really easy to go in and sort of view your transcript to see when the last time you did the training. So while as individual commissioners, we're not required to do it annually, you can see like, oh, it's been a few years, maybe I want to do the training. So if you get your password reminder or whatever, you can go log in. And so that's available for you. Training's available, even though we don't really process those in our role. So just wanted to throw that reminder out. And we do have one person designated to take the training annually. But so again, just a reminder, if that's something you feel you want to spend a half hour on, might be a good refresher.
And I became a expert in Open Meetings Act and public comment during COVID with Unit 5 as president. So, and I know my District 87 partner as well has lots of experience with that. So we're happy to consult or review any policy. Refer to the school district's policies as potential models. We've vetted those pretty well. So.
Yeah, and one thing I did want to add, while we wait on this review, the state agency that does these reviews is currently understaffed. And so don't expect this to be quickly reviewed. It may be sometime in the first quarter of 2026 before we actually see any sort of result. So just control expectations and such. With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Mark. Second? Second. Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, feel free to stay in the room. And I wish everyone a happy Christmas or a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Thank you.